Fantastic. So welcome aboard to our webinar, 3 simple steps to attract more high quality inbound leads. And we want all of those to be true. So let's crack on with some introductions. So I'm Helen Pethybridge, MD and business coach at Action Coach Chiltern Central. So we work with all sizes of businesses in the SME sector, working with the business owner to help you grow faster than you would otherwise and help you navigate these particularly interesting times that we find ourselves in. And we're creating a bit of a partnership with Crisp Digital. So Simon, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm Simon Bocko. I'm Strategy Director at Crisp Digital. And we work with lots of SMEs and fast-growing businesses on their kind of growth journey online. So whether that be working with a startup that's looking to get their first website and social presence, right through to kind of enterprise businesses that are moving into different markets. So we kind of work with the whole spectrum of people as they're kind of growing and shifting their focus online.
Brilliant.
We're based in Marlow.
Thank you. Yes, you're in Marlow and we're in High Wycombe, but we cover similar geography. So I hope you're all sitting there with your pens and pads and ready to take loads of notes. We've got lots of good stuff to share with you today. So please be ready to capture that. And then we have Guy in our team who is ready to manage the chat box because I get too carried away presenting and forget about the chat box. So he's in charge of the chat box there, which is fantastic. And he'll leap in with any questions that need to be asked as we go through. So without further ado, let's get started. So, and start here with a positive mindset. And I put this slide in because I think that there's a level of mystery around, well, lead generation overall, but in particular this how to get inbound leads. So it very much is something that we need to have the right mindset around. So, but this applies in all aspects of running your business. So you'll recognize some of these folk, but what I find is some folk go about their lives and certainly go about their businesses in a position where they're below the point of power. So you can see my lovely red dot there, that's our point of power. And we can sometimes find ourselves sitting below that point of power, particularly at the moment. And this is where we're in this zone of blame, excuses, or denial. So let's take a quick look at each one of those. So when we're in a blame mode, this is where we're blaming our situation on someone else, or actually often something else. You know, we're late to that meeting because of the traffic. Well, not at the moment because there isn't very much. But what's getting a lot of blame at the moment? Lockdown, COVID, coronavirus, great places to have some excuses go. Now, clearly they are a big impact to business, but some people are making this situation more successful than others. And I'm sure that's wholly to do with mindset. So blame is where we're blaming someone else, or it's something or someone else's fault. Excuses. I'm sure we've all heard excuses. I'm sure you're getting it. Those who are, bless you, homeschooling at the moment, I'm sure you're getting every excuse in the book from those you're trying to homeschool. Thankfully, mine are beyond that. But reasons why we can't do things, we should be doing this, I didn't do that, because of all these other reasons. They're reasons, but they're not helping us forward. And then the last one, denial. Now, I think denial is the most interesting. Sometimes denial might be, you know, no, absolutely, that's not true. And you're denying a situation that didn't happen. I don't hear that often, if I'm honest. For me, the bigger element of denial is when you're actually in denial to yourself. I hear denial about marketing strategies that aren't working, that people are continuing to do in this ever hopeful sense that somehow it might transform itself without you doing anything to it. And we just don't want to admit to ourselves that actually it's not working. I hear denial about team members. Oh, they'll get there. Anybody on the call? Let's have a quick sense in the chat box. Anybody in this call had a team member who they extended the probation period for in the hope and the denial, actually, that it wasn't working out, and then they kept going a bit, and then all of a sudden, and actually, if they were being really honest with themselves, the signs were there right early on. Have we got anybody admitting to that denial?
I'll put my hand up.
Simon's become a participant as well. Fantastic. But we have to, well, I can put my hand up as well. So we can find ourselves below the point of power, and then you can see we've got the little acronym BED. You're best staying in bed. What we need to do is, because when we're down there, we're in this powerless situation. We're in a victim mentality. We might be coming up with reasons, but that's not helping us get results. Reasons on their own don't do anything for us. So we need to pull ourselves up and get above that point of power to grab hold of our oar. So when we've got our oar, for those of you who know anything about rowing, when you've got your oar and you're using it, which direction does the boat go? The boat goes forwards. You can also use your oar to direct, which is why it's such a good analogy. So what have we got here? When we've got our oar in hand, we are taking ownership. So we're taking ownership of the situation. It's not the fault of coronavirus or the traffic or the schools are shut, or this or that or the next thing. We're actually taking ownership and going, yeah, that might be the case, but what I'm doing about it is this. We're accountable. And I like to put a little dash in. It's accountable, i.e. we're able to and conscious of our accounts. We're taking note of the numbers. These might be your financial numbers, they might be your KPI numbers, your marketing KPI numbers, but the numbers don't lie. So let's make sure we're being accountable. And equally underneath that, we have responsible. We are able to control our response to the situations we find ourselves in. And my goodness, we are finding ourselves in some unusual situations in the last 12 months. So when we are being responsible and accountable and taking ownership, we have got control. We've got the power. We're getting and moving ourselves towards results and very much driving our business forward. So for me, this is such a critical slide to take you through, because we must be in this accountable, ownership, responsible zone to do the best for our businesses, in particular at the moment. And then I just love this Henry Ford quote, and this applies to everything in life, in particular your high quality inbound leads. If you think you can do a thing, or you think you can't do a thing, you're right. So if you think you can't do it, you're going to prove yourself right. If you think you can do it, you'll prove yourself right. So I know which one I'll be choosing. You make your choice. So that's us getting going on mindset. Are we all ready to go now on finding our inbound leads? So first of all, I wanted to introduce you to our definition of what makes a successful business, and then I'll be showing you how the lead generation fits into that, and then Simon will be taking you into the models for the inbound specific lead. So we're using our expertise respectively there. So we define a successful business as a commercial, profitable, thank goodness, enterprise that works so that you don't have to. Interesting. Now, some of you on the call I know are at the solopreneur stage, and I know we're thinking, well, how does it work without me? I am the business, I'm the one in there. Well, if we want that to be the case, we need to manage our business so it becomes the case. But that requires planning and thinking. But any business, I've not come across a business yet where I could not see how it would not be able to, there's too many double negatives in there, how you wouldn't be able to create a business that can work without you. You might not want to, but actually I'm going to take you through the steps in a whiz quick tour. You'll see that most of them need to be in place to have any kind of successful business. But just plant that seed with you about that opportunity. So we follow a 6-step model here to think about what things need to be in place for your business. So initially at the bottom here, step number 1, we've got our mastery layer. And this very much is putting in the foundations for your business. We wouldn't build a house on sand. We're not going to build a business on a shaky foundation. So at this stage, we're putting good order and process in the basic areas so that your business can survive. This is things like what we call destination mastery. That's knowing where your business is going. Have you got a plan? Good question. Let me stop for a minute here. Let's put in the chat box. Have you got a plan for 2021? An ambition for where you're going to end the year? Because I think we can be ambitious about this year. We don't know what, the first quarter, not exactly clear how things are going to work out, but certainly the rest of the year I think is absolutely up for grabs. Have we got anybody putting yes, they've got a plan for 2021, Guy? Anybody doing that yet?
Couple,
good.
you're working on it, but yeah, not yet. No, a lot of them not yet.
Okay, I urge you to think about that. If we don't think about where we want to achieve, we're not going to be thinking about the opportunities. We won't be looking out for those opportunities. We won't be driving forward. If you're just happy to take what happens to come along, then happy days, but it's going to be under what you could achieve if you were driving it. So I'm sure I've got other webinars we can do and talk more about the plan, but destination mastery, where are you going? Time mastery, how are you making the most of your time? Time is precious. It's the one resource we never get back. So let's use it wisely. Financial mastery, knowing your numbers, checking your P&Ls, knowing your break-even points, all those good things. And delivery mastery, getting your product or service consistently to your customers, because that experience is so critical, referrals and ongoing business. When we've got mastery in place and a stable business, we can step up to niche. This is where we're driving the revenue and the profits forward through our sales and marketing. This is where we're going to be. This is where our inbound lead generation sits. And we get into the way of predictably creating cash flow, because we know when we invest, say, £500 in marketing and we get £1,000 back in profit, we know we're just going to keep turning that handle. It's a profitable exercise. When we've got niche running, and it's very much an experimental layer, that one, to find the secret sauce and combination for your business. When we've got that running, we can step up to leverage. This is all about doing more with less, our efficiency layer, automating, systemizing, that kind of thing, which of course digital marketing really helps you do well. The leverage layer is also where we define exactly how stuff gets done around here for your business. And therefore, if we do that before stepping up into the team layer, when we hire a team, they can be that much more effective because they know exactly what they're doing, how they're doing it, and they can get up to speed quickly. So those 4 layers are where all the groundwork happens. That's the hard work to get to a point where you have got a successful business. If you want to have it working without you, the team gets built until the point you put a general manager in, and then you can step back. Synergy is all about multiplying the impact of that well-oiled machine you've just created. Maybe you're going to open another in another geography, or open another outlet, or franchise or license, depending on what type of business you've got. And then results is very much our wealth management, a wealth creation layer. But you can see the hard work starts at the bottom, and in particular in the niche and mastery layers. So in niche, we talk about the numbers that we need to know to drive marketing that works. Now, I'm going to talk about this quite quickly here. Some of you I know have seen this model before, and those who haven't, we can go into this in much more depth in our, I'll offer a coaching session after as a follow-up to this webinar, and this is where we'll work out your numbers. So note that down. There's a form at the end to fill out to book that session. So it's going to be whiz quick now. But essentially, let me go back half a step. As business owners, pretty much most of you will know how many customers you've got, what your revenue is, what your bankings are, what your profit is. People knowing that, just put yes in the box if you know that. Those are the ones that we see as being outcomes. So customers, how many customers you've got is an outcome of how many leads your marketing brought in and how many of those leads your sales process converted. So it's really important you know, if you want more customers, do you need to get more leads in, or do you need to convert more of the ones you've already attracted? Your revenue is an outcome of how many customers you've got, how many times they transact in a given time period, so say a year, and what's the average value of each of those transactions. That gives you your revenue, and your profit is an outcome of your revenue times your profit margin, which is of course the balance between your costs, what's left over from your revenue after all your costs have been taken out. And it works mathematically. I know that's numbers, but let's just show it on the mathematically side here. So in our example here, say I use a kennel for those of you who are fully awake at this point in time. Why have I got dogs kenneling as an example? Because it all starts with leads. I know, cheesy, sorry for a Thursday afternoon. Anyhow, 4,000 leads, 25% conversion rate gives us 1,000 customers. Our example here has got 2 transactions a year, £100. They're only going for a weekend because it's a bit cheap for a kennel. So if anybody's got a dog, gives us our revenue of 200k, profit margin 25%, 50k. So those are the starter calcs. Then what we're looking to do in the niche layer is to multiply up those numbers. So if we took an example, we work on our inbound lead strategies and get 10% more, we're going to get 4,400 leads. We're going to work on our sales process, increase that by 10%. We're not adding 10% on, we're increasing it by 10%, gives us 27.5. Do the maths there, we end up with an extra 210 customers, as you can see. We're then going to look at our transactions. How many times do they transact with us? Could we look at, now this is the joy of the inbound lead generation and how we're doing it, because the better quality leads we bring in at the beginning, the more transactions we got. So actually, if we're dog kennels, we probably want families who go away on holiday 2 or 3 times a year to increase the number of transactions they're going to do with us. Well, that's going to give an implication about where we're looking for these leads. We want the value of each transaction to go up by 10%. How are we going to do that? This is our cross-sell, upsell opportunity. We're going to add all those extra services that kennels could do. There could be dog grooming, nail clipping, remedial training, pamper pooch spa day, whatever you could add on there. Again, we want to attract people who might like those services when it comes to getting the leads in the first place, to make our lives easier when we're upselling them through the experience. Look what's now happened to our revenue by doing those 4 changes at 10% each. We've actually, you have to trust me on this unless you've got a calculator handy, it's a 46% increase in revenue. We're going to work on our profit margins, lots of ways of doing that. We're going to renegotiate all our services. I imagine the water and electric bill there are going to be quite, we're going to put that to retender. We're going to look at efficiencies and how we look after the dogs, etc., and create a 2 and a 10% increase in margin, giving us a profit of 80,000. This maths is absolutely correct. You can work it out for yourself. That is actually giving us a 61% increase in profits, because we've got the compound effect of those 5 10% increases. Who'd like 61% increase in profit? Am I seeing some yeses in the box? Are you all frantically scribbling still? That's why we need to take this offline and talk about this, work these numbers out for your business. So you can see how the number of leads really can then, or the quality of those leads, we want to bring in enough of them and of the right quality to drive, because it's actually impacting 3 of our 5 levers are exclusively or largely impacted by who we're bringing in. So first thing we need to know is, what is a high quality lead for you? I'm amazed by the number of business owners I speak to who are not clear about who they want to attract. First of all, who is it you need to talk to? Who's the decision maker? Because a lot of leads fail to convert because we're not actually talking to the right person. So in the household, if you're a business to consumer business, who in the household do you need to talk to? Who's got the actual decision rights? In a business, who is it? Is it the business owner? Is it the marketing director? Is it head of customer service? Who is it that you need to talk to? If you're business to business, what's the kind of size of business you need? How many employees? What kind of turnover? If you're business to consumer, what are the characteristics? What's the type of household, their situation, their financial situation, their life situation? We need to know all these things. What kind of budget do they need available to buy your product or service? So these are the kind of things, and are they ready to buy now? Great having people who might want it in the future, but what we're doing through the sales process is increasing this emotional need to have the product. And if we do that, but they're not ready to buy now, we're going to have to do that all again later. So we want to attract people who are ready to buy now. And that is one of the beauties of the inbound lead approaches. So let's take a look at it, because not all leads are inbound, and outbound still does have its place. So here are some of the characteristics. So the great thing about inbound is they're looking for you. Yay. We don't have to chase down every single lead with our own energy and efforts. The idea is we put stuff out there and they come and select us. So likelihood is you are going to get them closer to that point of being ready to purchase. It does mean you potentially also attract people that you don't want, which is why we need to do it properly. And our process needs to be able to filter out so that we end up with the ones we want. But the prospects come to you, they're determining the timing. They decide when to respond to your efforts. They come on their terms, which is a really interesting contrast when we look across to the outbound leads, where we're deciding when to send that mail, when to do that cold or warm, lukewarm call. So the prospect determining it very helpful. Inbound tends to be a lower investment. Certainly you can enter at a lower investment level and easy to do little test and measures in there. And it can be passive once you're up and running. It can also be a little bit longer term to come through with the leads and very much tends to more take this approach of helping. People are coming to find stuff. They're looking for help and you're providing the help. Outbound, still used very frequently. This is where we're very much deciding who is our target market, and we can go after them because the choice is starting with us. So whether you're calling, mailing, networking, we're choosing who to talk to, who to be in front of. So we're reaching out, as I said before, we're working out the timing. Can be higher investment if you're going to do a mailing, or you're going on a billboard, doing TV and radio. Those are getting pretty pricey. And it's usually the situation once it's going, it requires constant activity from you to drive that, but it can create faster returns and has a tendency to come across more as selling. Current environment where we're at the moment, helping is the tone. Absolutely, through coronavirus and as we get into recession, which I think is the likely next step, we want that helping tone. What do these kind of things look like? Inbound, well, we're looking at things like website, SEO, social media. Those are our inbound routes. Our outbounds are the kind of things I've mentioned, the emails, the direct mails, telemarketing, networking, etc. And as you look at this list of outbounds, you can start to see some of these have got a bit of an impact when it comes to lockdown. So direct mail, business to business direct mail, there's not going to be anybody there to pick it up from the post box. Email campaigns, yes, they still could work. Danger of getting drowned out by emails, and everybody's getting increasingly sophisticated spam filters. Telemarketing is really interesting at the moment. If you have their mobile number, or they've got a phone that is directing their extensions to their mobile phone number, i.e. if you can get hold of them. During this year, what we've discovered is because people are actually not seeing so many people, not talking to so many people actually live, when you get hold of somebody, you can have a really rich conversation. On average, call time's going up, but the ability to get hold of somebody is going down. Because unless you have a mobile number or they've redirected, they're not on the office phones, clearly. So telemarketing, some and some. Networking, a lot of it obviously was face-to-face. I think it was almost all face-to-face before this year. Surprisingly, most of it has, I think, in some way, shape or form now moved online. So that can still go ahead, but it's not, you know, I find I do quite a lot of that. You can't exactly choose who you talk to in a breakout room, but it's still a strategy. Can't wait to get back to proper networking. TV, radio, well, probably more of this is going on. This might be an interesting channel at the moment. Trade shows, couple have creatively gone online, but generally not happening. So where people are, though, is very much more on their devices. And so this is where this year I think inbound has really, really come to its own. And so at this point, I'm going to hand over to Simon to take you into the nuts and bolts there. Thank you, Simon.
Well, lovely segue. Thank you. So I think you're kind of picking up from kind of where Helen left off. We're going to kind of talk about how you attract and convert and close, more importantly, inbound leads online, funnel management, and I get to use some of my favourite, which I find quite comedic buzzwords, and how we look at the customer life cycle, and then some kind of quick wins around, you know, if you want to start driving some inbound leads today and you want to start doing it yourself, there's some kind of quick wins and things that you can do. So it doesn't have to be necessarily spend millions of pounds on Google advertising. There are some things that you can kind of do yourself and kind of get moving and start kind of driving inbound leads. So there's a film called Field of Dreams, and they always talk about if you build it, they'll come, which I checked, the film was in 1989, so I think I was about 5. So, but I know that there's a famous phrase there, which is if you build it, they'll come, and it gets quoted really often. And unfortunately, when it comes to the web, it's the kind of worst thing you can do. So I think there's lots of people, it happens with big businesses and happens with small businesses, that thinks, I've got a website, I'm going to get inbound leads. Well, the kind of question is, okay, well, it sounds good, but it doesn't work. So, you know, how are people going to find you if they don't know you exist? So I think you're going to get inbound leads through your website. That's absolutely fine. If, for example, word of mouth or through other customers, and you're naturally going to get people visit you. But if you really want to start to ramp up your business and drive a lot of traffic, there are things that you're going to be needing to do online in order to make that happen. So how do we kind of build digital content and strategy, and how do we map that to a sales funnel? So you may have seen these a million times, but broadly speaking, a sales funnel online tends to work like this. So there's the attract piece, which is very much around exactly what it says on the tin, getting people to your site, capturing them, which is you know, making sure they fill out a form, or if you've got tracking that you have, or a CRM system or an account management. So I think a really good example of this is things like Amazon. So if I've logged into Amazon and I go on Amazon, it automatically knows that what I've looked at and what I've done, so that when I come to the nurture bit, which is the next bit down, it will start to send me emails about things that I'm interested in, things that I've looked at that I haven't bought, things I've put in my basket that I've left. So that's the kind of nurture bit, which is around valuable content or interesting content, or actually smart communications around certain things that I've looked at or certain things that I've done. Then there's a convert bit. So that's the, do you want to buy a product? Some of the things that Helen talked about, you pick up the phone, you send them a booking form, whatever it is, the type of business that you have. And then more importantly, which people don't think about often, is the expand part, which is once I've made a customer and that customer is happy, how do I drive advocacy within that specific customer? And actually I can use that customer to drive inbound leads for me. So I think when things are really successful and you've done a really good job in your customer experience, you will naturally pick up advocacy with your current customers. And obviously a recommendation is worth 10 times anything else that you'd have on the internet. So this is where I get to use my favorite buzzwords, which is tofu, mofu, and bofu, which I find quite, maybe I'm the person who finds this funny, but they stand for top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel. And that's a kind of way to kind of think about these things. And if you are producing content or you are running advertising campaigns or emails, this is the way to think about where things are at. So from that bit at the top when I kind of enter to say I'm an inbound lead, right through to the bit at the bottom where you're effectively trying to close them and expand them. That's obviously complicated language, so a way that I often think about it is kind of visitors, leads, customers, and fans is probably a kind of simpler way of turning in those buzzwords. So it's about the people who visit your site, making them or helping them become leads through the content and the work that you're doing, who've eventually become customers, who hopefully, if they've had a good experience and you've got the right tools to help them bring in their friends, can become fans. So a really good example of this is things like Uber, for example. Like, how many people have had an Uber code and they send it to someone else because they get £5 off their cab and at the next booking, and their friend gets £5 off. So there's lots of techniques that you can use through various systems that don't have to be too expensive, that can help facilitate that advocacy and drive people to your business and your website. So I thought what would be good is to break those specific parts of the funnel down and actually look at what's involved in those and what you can do if you had some money to spend, and that doesn't have to be large, and what you can do with your own time. So quite crudely on the left, pound sign obviously means you have to spend some money in order to make that happen. And a clock on the right means that with your own time and your own effort, you can kind of make some of these things happen. So at that first bit and that attract part of the funnel, it's very much around, as you would imagine, catching the attention of prospects and driving them to your site. So from a paid perspective, you could target high volume keywords. So at a simple level, your EasyJet, you're paying loads of money for cheap flights. You're going to get a lot of traffic, you're going to get a lot of volume from there, but it can be quite costly. There are smarter ways that you can do it, and you can use various tools in order to find the right keywords, or we can help. But that's a very easy way to get a lot of traffic. Obviously, pay-per-click advertising, so that's the purple bits that sit at the top of Google before the searches. Social media advertising, so interesting video or adverts across social networks. And search engine optimization, so if someone is searching for you, you've built your site and you've written things in a way which is friendly to Google so they can find you quickly. So you're naturally getting traffic coming to your site on a regular basis from people who haven't heard of you because they're just searching for what you offer. The other ways that you can attract people that don't cost anything is producing educational content. So they talk about, and it comes up a lot in our industry, around education being the new currency. And so people tend to build, or they feel indebted to you if you've educated them. So if you've done something to help someone, let's say, for example, you've got a quite complex business that is going to be difficult for many people to understand, there is risk inherent in that. So if you've helped someone, you've educated them and understand exactly what they're buying, exactly what they're doing, you then attract a level of sentiment, which will more than likely mean that someone will continue to buy from you over someone who didn't educate. Writing a blog, which is great for SEO and great for kind of positioning your business. Email campaigns, which can be sophisticated and pay lots of money, but if you've got a small customer group or a small database, you can write those and have those regular touch points and do that yourself. And just generally having social media content, so having a presence in social and having a presence online will naturally drive you more traffic. So think of it as across the web, having as many interesting things around your business, your product, your service, your differentiator as possible. So there's lots of places where people can find you and people can see exactly what your business is about. Then from the capture perspective, so where we're looking to capture those interactions and get contact details of prospects, on the paid side, and there's a science to this, it's about having websites that are optimized for conversion. So you'll see lots of startups with lots of calls to action, and there's a very smart way in which to, based on lots of statistics and psychology, to optimize your site so that it converts. The other part of it is having a more sophisticated CRM system. So things like HubSpot or similar will capture that individual, track their entire journey on your site, and then through what they've looked at and what they've done, you can then send them more contextual emails. So in my Amazon example, you've looked at some papers and pens, you're then going to get an email 2 days later about papers and pens, despite the fact that you have not filled out a form, you haven't done anything. Because of their CRM system, because it's account management driven, they know what you've done and they served you products related to what you searched for. Then on the free side, having really big visual calls to action, easy to complete forms, gated content. So that's things that sit behind a form. So for example, if you had something high value like a webinar or a white paper, you might suggest that someone has to give you their information in order to receive that white paper via an email. So people tend to be more willing to give their contact details to access high quality, specifically educational content. And then as we talked about, kind of analytics and tracking. So if you know who's on your site, you know what they've done, it gives you that context when you want to reach out to them. Kind of the next bit in the nurtures around, and this obviously depending what business you have, obviously it differs. So you can move through this very quickly, or it might be slow. So if you're selling a £1 million product versus a £2 product, the speed in which you might go through this and the amount of content that you would need at each level would differ. But as a broad sense, you can kind of understand the funnel. So we're trying to educate people about kind of what you do. So at this point, they've looked, they're interested, they might have left and gone away. So what can we do to kind of bring them back and educate them in terms of kind of what the business does and what we're about? So something called marketing automation. So this is the automatic emails that are triggered from the system based on people's actions, so you can put a lot of the heavy lifting around customer management and moving someone through the funnel on the marketing automation system. Having a dedicated landing pages, so have you got specific products or specific services that you can drive people to, so that if you want to push something, you can do that. High value content, so as I've mentioned, white papers, webinars, and one of the great things to do is offer people certain tools. So if you had you're a mortgage company and you had a loan calculator, sounds really simple, but that's quite a helpful tool for people and tends to get people coming back. And then the retargeting, so that's the ads that follow you around all over the web, and they just keep following you around. So you can they're the paid things that you can do. And some of them can be quite small from a payments perspective and some quite high. But if you wanted to spend some time yourself, you can write personal targeted emails yourself. You don't, if you've got 50,000 customers, you're going to need marketing automation. If you've got a small group of customers and they're quite similar in their attitudes and what they're buying from you, you can actually just write these emails yourself and get them out and have those regular touch points. Customer-centric web content, so making sure that you're trying to, I'm very much here like self-serve. So if someone comes to you, it's all well and good saying, okay, I've got a lead, so someone's hit my website. But if they're struggling to understand what you do, what you're about, your product is too complex, or they feel there's lots of questions that are unanswered about what you do, they're going to leave, and that you might actually lose them. So making sure that your content is really optimized so that people really understand your business and what you're about. And then the obvious one, which is like content sharing and distribution. So many people, I'm sure, will get this all the time, and it's done quite crudely, but I think if it's done smartly, is an effective tool, which is when someone adds you on LinkedIn, they try and sell you something after, but they indirectly sell you by saying, I've produced a paper, or I've produced something that you might be interested in. So that's a kind of quite crude social selling, but actually if it's done in a more giving way, so that I have something that I feel will help your business or your sector, or that will be of use to you, they're really great tools, again, to kind of build some positive sentiment amongst customers, and actually also help encourage sharing and bringing other customers. And then the kind of convert bit. So, I mean, these things will differ from business to business, but ultimately imagine that funnel and someone, if you've got tracking on your system, or you're getting responses back from people, it will be very clear that the number of people that are interested, the level of interactions you're getting on certain parts of your content will then determine where they're at in that funnel. So they've looked at a bit of social content, you've seen they've been sharing things, they've responded to your emails. That suggests a certain level of engagement where you can kind of move them to close. So they're all the things that you might expect. So as Helen mentioned, so get on the phone, social selling. So you reach out to them on social media or through LinkedIn. send them a proposal, send them a product focused email, order forms, finance agreements, whatever it is that the way your business operates. Once you've got a very clear indication from that customer that they've interacted with lots of your content and they are keen, there is a natural point to say, okay, you know, you're very keen in all the things that I've been doing. Now's a really good opportunity to buy something. And then finally, the engage. So if you've got someone and they've bought and they're really happy with what they've purchased, there's actually great ways that you can kind of bring in others. So what they call it is what they call a member gets member campaign. So that could be facilitated by a system, or it could be facilitated by you, which is around giving your customers tools to bring in others. And that could be an incentive from a soft perspective, or it could be incentive from a hard perspective. So in the Uber sense, they give you £5 off, but it could be, you know, exclusive access to a certain club, or it could be to get emails from new products that you previously wouldn't have done. So there's, depending on your customer, you can tailor the benefits that somebody gets from bringing in others. Sign up codes, so a really good way of tracking how successful these campaigns to attract other customers are, is around giving sign up codes. So often people say, oh, I've done a campaign, I don't know if anyone's done anything with it, my traffic's gone up. So if you give them a sign up code to say, if you use this code, you get X or Y or Z, and that is the only activity you're currently doing, it's then very easy to get return on investment. So if you're doing one piece of activity that has a sign up code through your current customers, you can see very quickly how many you've picked up. And then kind of new customer incentives. So, you know, are there, as I mentioned, kind of smart ways to encourage new customers through other customers? So as I said, exclusive clubs, different kind of products, that kind of thing. So they don't necessarily all have to be monetary. And then the kind of on the free side of things, you know, you get it all the time, encourage customers to write a review, do a social share. So really impressed with the work that Chris Digital did for me recently. Can't recommend them enough. Link to my website. You know, so if you've got that advocacy and you've got that relationship with the customer, you know, these two things on the right go a really long way. So anything that comes from somebody else rather than directly from you is something really high value and you can get a lot from. And so I reckon I've been quite quick because we wanted to field some questions, but really in terms of some key takeouts, I think, you know, think about how you can create high quality content at each point of the funnel. So the tofu, mofu, bofu. So even if you said to attract people, I'm going to spend a small amount on advertising. To nurture people, I'm going to produce a blog and a couple of bits of high quality educational content. And to close people, I'm going to template out some emails that are going to close people and get people to sign up. That could be a really good start that's fairly cost efficient and actually not that expensive, but will naturally start to build that funnel. And it might start narrow, and the more time and money you invest, it might get wider, but it's certainly a good way to kind of start to generate and manage inbound leads through your funnel. I think as I kind of mentioned, there's a lot of things you can do in your own time. It doesn't cost anything to get up and running. So, you know, as a thing to do, anything that's got a clock next to, and then when you look at this later, you know, pick one of them up, pick two of them up, and, you know, start to think about, if I had some spare time for an evening, is there a blog that I can write, or, you know, I'm going to give something a go, because ultimately there's no harm in it. And I think very much if you start at the top at the attract level and start getting some leads and start learning from there, it will soon become very clear the type of content that you're going to need to help move people through that funnel. Try to give customers all the information they need when visiting your site. So, and without too much copy. I understand that's always quite difficult, but if someone can self-serve and there's a lot of understanding about what you do and how you do things, it makes it a lot easier and will naturally do that nurture thing for you. So you'll move someone through a funnel because there's no questions around what you do and what you're about. Spend a small amount of money on the attract part of the funnel to start filling the hopper. So you might just do some retargeting or put a bit of money behind some social ads. Again, it could be £50, could be £100, but if it's successful and it's done in the right way, you will naturally start to generate inbound leads and that attract part of it, and start getting people towards your site or your business and start to generate more income. And I think use analytics and tracking to monitor interactions. So even if you've got a Wix website, there is an inbuilt tracking system to that. Otherwise, you can use more sophisticated tools like Google Analytics, HubSpot, the Salesforce, whatever it is you wanted to use. There's a really good way to capture leads and monitor what that return on investment is. So at a simple level, somebody clicked a bit of social content, they then went to my homepage, they then went to About Us, they looked at a white paper, and they then went to contact, is a really good journey. So you can see that the way that you've structured your site and the way that you've structured your funnel is being effective. Where if someone went through and then dropped off, you can very quickly rectify that to make sure that we're moving everyone through right to the convert bit at the bottom, so that you're sending out the emails to kind of close people. So that's a really quick, and we can talk after or another time, of how you kind of build a funnel and start to think about in your head where you can put content at different points in that funnel to make a really natural journey for that people move through. That's kind of my bit, kind of really quickly. I'm conscious I've been told I've got to stop at 150, so I'm at 149. So that's my bit on kind of funnels and funnel management online.
Brilliant. Thank you, Simon. Fantastic. Right. So, timing's going well. So we are absolutely going to have some time for questions, which is fantastic. So get thinking about what those questions might be. I also, as alluded to earlier, both Simon and myself have put aside some time. In fact, Guy, could you drop the link into the chat box? So we've got a link here for form feedback on this webinar. It's the first time we've done this particular one, so your feedback will be fantastic, so we can improve this for next time we run it. But more importantly for you, this is where you can tick, yes, please, let's have a pro bono business health check with myself, or digital audit with Chris. So thinking about what we've covered today, in the business health check with myself, this is where we can go into a little bit more of a look for your business about who is your target audience, because the digital side works best when you've done that thinking up front. So if we want to think about who that is, we can look at a slightly more slower pace at how to get those 5 ways, those 5 lots of 10% that give you that 61% increase in profit. We can look at how you'd measure that in your business for your numbers, so you know the impact of getting that lead generation, how it's going to flow through. Simon, what are some of the things that you could help people with on their digital audit?
Yeah, I think potentially looking at, if someone's got no funnel whatsoever, thinking about some really smart quick wins for their business, about how we can get some things at each part of those funnels. Or if you've got one already, we can kind of look at what you've got and analyze the statistics that you're, the information that's coming out of there, and make some recommendations about things that you can use to bolster that and increase your leads.
Fantastic. And there's also an opportunity to sign up so that we can tell you about, if you're interested and you've had some great learning from this webinar, then we're doing other ones, and we independently do webinars. So there's lots of learning available, and we'd love to be able to invite you to those if that's something that would be helpful. So what I suggest is, if you could just click the link, if you found it in the chat box, just literally click it, get it up on the browser, even just fill it out now whilst we're here. We've got some minutes now until we get to 2 o'clock, when you're probably onto your next Zoom call. So grab it now, get that going, and then we'll pick that up and we can arrange a mutually convenient time. And whilst you're doing that, if anybody's got any questions, this is the time to answer them. We're here now, Simon and I, captive in front of you. So very happy to pick up what questions you have. Probably best to put them in the chat box, actually. Let's see what's going to come up. So some of the questions actually I've had before can be around, when we're looking at the 5 ways, do we do that on an annual basis or a monthly basis, or how often do we do that? And for me, that depends on the rhythm of your business. If you think about the business in an annual way, we can do it annually, but to be honest, it's a little bit distanced apart to be able to really make that work hard for you. So I prefer monthly. If it's very fast moving retail, then that's probably weekly. Great question here from Pippa, thank you. Do you recommend that all social media posts link back to your website? Simon, I think that's one for you.
Yeah, so I think for me, yes is the answer, but contextual to what you're talking about. So, for example, if you were pushing a product, I'm not sure what your business is, but let's say a vase, I'll make it up. So check out our new hand-painted British vase. You would go to the vase page on your shop. If you were talking about a new set of, I don't know, cushions that you had, you might go to your cushions landing page on your shop. If you were talking about your business in general, it might be a homepage or about us. So I think it's about taking advantage of what it is you're talking about and then monitoring the different types of messages. So some might be general about your business and lead to your homepage, what happens then, versus what happens if you push a product and take someone directly to a product, and then kind of analysing which are most successful in driving those leads. And then obviously do more of the things that work and less of the things that don't.
Brilliant, thank you, Simon. Oh, here we got from Dale, what are the three simple steps? I think if I'm looking at the slides, the 3 steps to getting digital, the online working is about 1, attracting, converting and closing the inbound leads. 2 was the funnel management, managing them through those steps. And 3, the ideas, the quick wins to start driving more inbound leads. Darren, any advice on leads re the latest situation? We've had negative feedback when trying to offer free or discounted services aimed at COVID recovery. A lot of abuse from those who think COVID is a hoax and those who accuse us of trying to benefit when people are dying. Goodness me. Well, I'll give my 4 pennyworth, and I think then Simon, you jump in as well. My experience of it, to be honest, I haven't experienced the abuse from those who think it's a hoax, but I have been surprised how difficult it is to offer free advice. I think people are cautious and a bit suspicious maybe about what that might be or why you are offering that. So I do see free can be tricky. So I think I would either go the education route. Webinars are really powerful at the moment. People are very much now, 9 months later, into the habit of doing that. And then maybe offer some low pricing rather than no price would be my thought. Because I do see actually people are suspicious of free. Not just now, actually. Simon, what's your thought or experience on that?
Yeah, I think people, especially, people in business. So I used to have my own business, and I think someone said to me, "Oh, you've got that huge level of cynicism within 6 months. Well done." I think you become more cynical when you've got your own business, and I think customers are doing the same thing, and that they know that if something is discounted or positioned as trying to help you, that it's not necessarily it. So the old-fashioned IT audit, is a route into a sale. So I think a lot of it is around what we found from what we're doing is tone, which is really difficult. And I think you mentioned, Helen, which is there's one thing, and it might not be the case, but tonally has come across as profiting from a difficult situation for people versus tonally around supporting people through a difficult time. So I think if the service that you offer can benefit people in this time, and that you're looking to support people in the right way, we found that you do tend to get a response which is kind of, we're all having a tough time, we're all in this together type approach. And it does work, but I think, it's a very, very difficult thing to balance tonally.
Interesting, just thinking off my feet here. Maybe if you can do a video or something explaining why you're doing it, what the offer is, where you can get tone across so much more easily. When you've got visual and voice. The science is only 7% of communication is received via the actual words. So when we type stuff and try to get an offer across in purely written material, we're actually only going to get 7% of our intent across. To get the full amount, we need body language and sound and tone. Good. Any other questions? We've got a couple of minutes left, so we can probably take one or two more. If not, I did see a lovely comment for Christine. Good reminder about planning. Yeah, this is such a brilliant time for planning, folks. Add that to your to-do list if you didn't already. Brilliant. Well, if there's no more questions, as I say, do click the link that's now a little bit further up in the chat. Maybe just pop that in again. Click the link to make sure, and we can book you in to really tailor and personalize what you've learned to your business. And look forward to speaking to you shortly. Anything final to add, Simon?
Well, that's it from me. So yeah, thanks very much, guys, and yeah, get in touch if you need any further support.
Great. Have a great rest of week, and yeah, and a weekend when we get there.